Sorry, Steve, you were saying?
No, I was just saying that the coverage on Fox in particular um, around Asheville is very detailed, and the stories they're telling are you guys got hit really, really hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really sad.
Hey, all.
Hey, I know.
Yeah, no.
You want me to share the deck, right? When you're ready.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Thanks, Anna.
All
So
right.
that we can be as close as normal despite Mother Nature.
Oh, that's right. How are you doing? Are you still like got a house and things?
House is there. As you can see, I'm in my car because there's no power and there's not much internet at home.
I've heard this from
Decided
several.
to, yeah. But I count myself lucky because there are a lot of people in far worse situation.
Yeah, for sure.
And I also don't have a good clock in front of me.
Lock.
Just after,
Just
just a couple
The
minutes.
old-fashioned
wait.
watch.
It's 3:01, Anto.
thank you. Just give it another minute and get going.
801.
801, of course.
1201.
You're on the West Coast, Anno?
Yeah, that's right. You're the same time as me. What's going on?
I don't know if I told you guys, but I came over here for personal reasons, and the first few days I burst my appendix and put myself in the hospital for like 5 days. So,
Oh, no.
Jesus.
yeah, that was not fun.
So
No,
you're
you're
still
lucky.
out
Oh my
there,
God.
right?
That's right.
You're still out there, Anna?
I'm still out here. Yeah, might be another couple of weeks through.
So no more drinking for you.
Yeah, it's a bit dicey as to the definition of what I can drink.
Gotcha.
I'm pushing the edge of that a little bit, Mike.
Gotcha.
My doctor's not happy.
So should we get going?
Sure.
Anna, you want to bring up the
I
slides?
will, yeah. Just tell me when you want to move on.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's okay. As you could see, if you could see me and my camera, I'm in my car, which is not my normal place because of all of the problems Helene brought to Asheville. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later, I'm sure. But welcome to Monday Live. This is something that we do Monday afternoons to try and figure out what the future holds for smart buildings. In case you're wondering who we are, our profiles are listed on mondaylive.org. And just bear in mind that views expressed here are personal, not of any company or organization. Do post questions, comments on the chat so we can make it interactive. If you want anything of this slide, it's available on mondaylive.org. Slide,
Oh, sorry.
Go, slide. So this is our last week talking about buildings as assets. And we're going to wrap up the month by really focusing on having learned quite a number of things over the past three weeks on asset management. How can we leverage all of that for our industry, for buildings? So that's really sort of the question that I want to pose to this group. We will have Mike back on, and I'll bring him on in a moment. But before that, if you can move the slide and hand it over to Ken.
Thank you very much, Anto, and sorry to hear of your troubles there. And I think it's a great demonstration of how resilient all of this cloud stuff is when, as long as we can get pieces of it working, we can hand off duties. And so it's pretty neat that you're there in Knoxville and the slides are being changed in Texas somewhere. No, you're actually in the West Coast, sorry. Forgot about that, Anto. Okay, anyway, good stuff. This session is the summary of the September session we had on buildings as assets, and it's turned into a really good month. When we started it, I was kind of wondering what this was going to all be about and how useful it would be, but I think it's turned into be extremely useful. And what I've done is I've gone back and taken all of our summaries that we've done over the month. Last week is building as an asset, the rise of the TCO and the need for a system of systems approach. I think that was a very useful one. We summarize that up and provide a link to the Monday Live, as we did in the week before, which was the ISO, unlocking the value. And the one we started the month off with was the building as assets, the new era and the smart building management. The understanding of systems kind of was an adjunct that got added to the month, but an important piece. I'm pretty sure we're going to be talking a lot more about that in the future. We're still we're a media sponsor for Smart Buildings in the UK. This is an event that's going on. They're kind of expecting about 2,000 folks, and there's actually a lot of our advertisers are going over there, so it's very much depicts the globalness of what we're doing. And I keep encouraging you all to think globally, act locally, and think globally, because everything you put anywhere is now being viewed by everyone in the world. And it's interesting that we're picking up big pieces of the puzzle as we talk. And there's been some pretty interesting connections even to the asset management side of this. So good stuff. Really, really pleased. The magazine is going well. We seem to be getting where we're trying to get, is this idea of trying to have the industry depict themselves as how valuable they are, and assets is obviously the underlying part of that. And yeah, so we're starting to do that, getting new advertisers coming, new sponsors coming on, basically with their messages. Interesting, some of the messages that are coming on. Strong use of the cloud, cloud native, cloud open. These things are all trending, and a lot of change occurring. So is it back? Boy, is it back to Anto or Anno?
I'm just a remote slide pusher.
Okay. Back, but Anto's gone though, isn't he?
Oh no, we lost him.
Yeah, I think so. Mhm.
So Anna, aren't you driven by artificial intelligence?
Artificial intelligence.
That's
AI,
right.
as
There
we
you
know.
go.
I'm the artificial piece.
That's right.
Ando, I think we've lost you. I see a picture,
Yeah,
but I see no.
we don't have very good connections.
I could speak
No.
to this. I could speak to this if you wish.
No.
Basically, the piece we did was we pointed artificial intelligence at this document, and we pulled out the salient points. So if you actually take a look at our article, The System of Systems, it references this document and the work that's being done by the Industry IoT Consortium. And like I say, there was a lot of interest in that. I think it's definitely in our future, and it's something that we would want to read. I'm not sure what Anto would have said more about that, but Are you
How do
able to?
you, you pointed the AI at what document?
The document that I showed you on the slide before, can you go back a
Oh,
slide?
yes, okay.
Maybe just flip back a slide for everybody,
Yeah, hang on. All
if
right.
you're the slide changer.
Oops, yeah, I'm doing a terrible job.
There you go. Okay, the one right there, understanding the system of systems and how
Ah,
they're
got it.
created. If you actually go into that,
This guy here.
yeah, it talks, and it actually references that document.
Okay.
Roll down a bit, I think you'll see that. Right there at the top, whoops, yeah, right there is the industry consortium.
Yep.
Systems, okay, value creation. Okay,
That's
so
correct.
some of those links are all there, I think, as well.
Interesting. Which engine did you use for that?
I think she uses a blend. She actually, I think she's using Gemini as one, and then she quite often runs it through other ones, and you kind of get a different flavor of how to pluck some of this stuff out. So interesting stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
We're still trying to figure it all out like everybody else. But
Yeah.
the thing
Yeah.
there's a whole bunch of things that I'm seeing about artificial intelligence that I hadn't seen. Is it's incredibly patient. I mean, it'll actually look. We can point it at these Zoom calls, and there's a lot of chitter chatter going on, and it'll actually pick through every little piece of conversation, kind of try and pull some coherency out of it, which is really difficult. And there's actually a lot of good knowledge that gets passed over here, but it's so broken and it's so tedious that definitely it falls into the category of too long did not read, or did not
Right.
watch in this case. And so therefore, using the AI to basically read the script, because it has the patience to actually take the hour thing, which it probably does in 6 seconds or something, and flips through and pulls out the salient points. And when you ask it to make a summary, it does a reasonable summary. Of course, it can't be unleashed without reading it and trying to make sense of it best we can. So, but I'm impressed with the process. It has the patience to condense a lot of what we're doing, and I think a lot of what we're doing needs condensing.
Yeah. In fact, we're looking at. We use Gemini. So I was going to ask you: are we going to go back to the Gemini versus Gemini wars pronunciation here? But we use Gemini a lot now. I'm actually quite impressed with what it can do, especially for its price points and stuff as well on a commercial model. It actually looks quite impressive. And then to your point about too long didn't read, Apple's playing that up at the moment, right, with their new iPhone release and the Apple Intelligence Insider, whatever they're calling it, where there's the commercial of the writer and the agent, and the writer asked if she'd got the email about her book proposal, and the agent was like, no, I hadn't quite got it. Well, I got it, but I hadn't read it. And then she brought up the insights button that summarized the whole thing for her in a couple of phrases. Even though you can't actually get that yet on the iPhone, because I haven't actually released it, right? Even though they've released the phone, but not the. I guess the AI is a little bit behind still. Interesting.
So if you can hear me,
Yeah.
this is actually the slide from last week. I didn't get the chance to update it. I was going to sort of talk about how my experience in Asheville in the last 5 days was a system of systems, but I don't think my connection is good enough to sustain that. Safe to say that it was very interesting to sort of experience this, what I experienced, because normally we all sort of see it from afar. I consider myself lucky because we didn't have any major damage or any sort of other issues. But it was really very interesting watching how my life and our life in our house deteriorated. Obviously, the power went down, and then the internet went down, and then we still had cell service. It's kind of patchy, and then that eventually went down, and we were basically dead from a communications perspective. until
Right.
3 days later. Although I did, interestingly, I have a new phone, one of the new Pixel 9 phones, and it has the Pixel to satellite service. So I thought I'd try it out. So I did. Went outside and tried it out, and sure enough, without Wi-Fi, without cell, I was talking to some satellite somewhere, saying hello. But I had no emergency, so
Wow.
nothing bad. But so I thought that was kind of interesting because, you know, in the process of living through that, I was kind of thinking, yeah, this is kind of cloud native. I'm kind of always connected-ish.
Yep.
But the thing that the thing that really ruined our lives the last couple of days, again, not comparing it with the other problems that many other people are suffering. So we're not trivializing the issue, but water. Once we stopped getting water, and life changed dramatically. All the stuff that we the system then have group. So
Yeah, you're breaking up. You're breaking up a little bit, Anto. I suspect many folks in your area are probably on their cell phones as well, right?
But I think it's a great plug for the system of systems and how resilient that can be, and it can be life-saving, and it allows us to keep moving no matter what happens. Whatever's up is up, and whatever's down is down, and you know. So I think it's an actual great demonstration of what the industry consortium is talking about. So anyway, good stuff. I think it fits. Probably is worthwhile more discussion with Monday Live in the future.
I'm just moving the slides on as Anto continues to struggle with his connectivity. I think this is that bottom left-hand slide, that chart I've just pulled up, and
I think this was from last week, and
Yeah.
because of everything, Anto didn't have a chance to
update.
really address this. Again, I'm Mike Bordenaro, the Executive Director of the Asset Leadership Network, and it's been an honor to be part of Monday Live for the past month. And I'm glad that people are seeing the value of this asset management perspective. And it ties into a couple things that you're mentioning. First of all, the system of systems is a way of having redundancy, but also you got to be careful because the water industry is one of the largest users of electricity to pump the water. So people don't realize it, but every time they're running the water, they're causing electricity generation to be required. And we need to be thoughtful of that. And then your discussion about AI is right up the alley of what we've been doing at the Asset Leadership Network, and what we want to continue doing with Monday Live and the coalition, and with our efforts for the ASHRAE event in February, where we're planning, we haven't fully named it yet, but it's based on a couple decades of BIMstorm, where we have online workshops to demonstrate capabilities so that owners can understand that they should specify this advanced system of systems approach. And part of what we've been doing, thanks to our patron member Onuma Inc., has been using artificial intelligence as part of our workshop demonstrations. And there's been all kinds of proof of concepts of how AI assists with these complex systems of systems. And one of the things that Kimon has done is with an owner that has installed a work order system and has 40,000 work orders, put them in AI, and the AI comes up with predictive maintenance scheduling. based on what you've been seeing from your work orders, this is what you should be anticipating is needed.
Right.
And that's just taking existing data and moving it through. Now, when you start doing specific data for automation systems or MEP or whatever HVAC systems, then you can really start fine tuning things. And what we're going to be doing, continuing on past this month of asset management discussions, is having some interactions of people who want to participate in this event in February at the AHR event in Orlando. So we've got some new people that I haven't seen before, and I haven't met. Roger Woodward, hi.
Hi, Mike.
Nice to meet you. What group are you involved with?
I'm based in the UK, so I've been pretty much here at the beginning of when we started Monday Live, and try to give it a little bit of European flavor to actually show that we are global. And there's no question that you know, as Ken was saying, that really there's no difference in marketplaces and the drive to do everything. And I think that all the subjects we covered have certainly been, you know, over the past few years have actually been, you know, global, not just North American.
And you have a unique perspective on asset management, since the PAS 55 publicly available standard 55 out of the UK is the foundation for the ISO 55000 asset management system.
Yeah, I did some work with an FM company who expanded their connectivity to be real time, but also added in all the management functions of the building, you know, lease management, as well as all the other assets in the building. And that really made a difference. And I think the real-time link for things like FM companies are significant, because that just actually makes the whole, you know, brings together the whole thing. If you've got that facility management software, the IWMS, Integrated Work Management System, and you've got all the systems that are connected through, then it gives you the ability to both manage the assets within the building as well as the buildings themselves.
I think let's just sort of keep moving. I know Anto's probably still struggling with his connectivity. Rick, you want to chat to the coalition?
Sure. As usual, the links to a lot of the things we're talking about are posted here on this slide. And over the next, and with Mike having talked about AHR coming up, we're going to be announcing some things about AHR, and also announcing some things at AHR that'll be coming up. And then, but this slide that you're on now is the classic link to all the different all the different things that we talk about when we're on here.
Yeah, it's interesting too, by the way, guys. One of my takes is like what you're doing, Rick at AHR, what Mike's doing, and what, you know, we're doing. It's starting to change the flavor from AHR to make it become interesting enough, and what Ken's doing is become interesting enough to attend and put some more effort back into it. Right, it kind of dropped off my radar for a while.
Yeah, the conversations that typically happen, well, you know, it was always kind of fun to go there just for the big reunion factor annual, but hopefully the conversations with the different sessions, what we're going to do with the summit, what Mike is talking about with this storm that'll be scheduled for the Wednesday of AHR. Hopefully it'll be a compelling, there will be enough compelling previews that we'll make of the things that are going to be talked about and done, that, yeah, it'll change the flavor of the conversations, and it'll change the nature of some of what's happening there.
I very much agree with that. And of course, we've been working on our free education sessions, and we're up to an incredible number, higher than we've ever had.
Oh, wow.
Big thing for us is we've opened up Wednesday again, and we've officially declared Wednesday training day. So we're allowing anybody that wants to provide a training session. So we've got that opening up. Ironically enough, they've been pushing us for the last month, almost 2 months, to get this ready. We've got it all ready, and it's been sitting in their camp for the last couple of weeks. So we're kind of frustrated. In fact, I've got a meeting tomorrow, and when we'll at least be releasing what we've got. But yeah, our programs are quite different, where they were kind of very technical and pointed down at the building systems levels. We're definitely more into cloud, how AI is going to work, more some of the people interfaces. It's gone a whole bunch of different directions. The age of our speakers has halved, and
That's interesting.
yeah, we're starting to get that down. A lot more women, not only in a speaker point, but actually a moderator too. So
Nice.
looking forward to that. So Kerry will be stepping in anywhere where I would normally be talking, and it's interesting. So this whole cloud thing for the next generation isn't as mysterious as it is to us. Us old guys, I'm still struggling with all this stuff that's going on, but for them, it's oh, finally you guys are talking about something I understand and what you should be doing. Yeah, so it's kind of fun. But anyway, yeah, so big shift in the content. So thanks for noticing that, Anto.
Yeah, I mean, it's becoming evident, right? It's starting to it'll start to attract some younger generations. Any other news and thoughts before we kind of move on? Anything else anyone wants to bring up? If not, I've got Anto is keeping me honest here. So the question he wants to pose is, how do we use asset management in the building automation space? and Mike, I'm not sure if you want to give that some initial thoughts, because just let me frame it a little bit differently, based a little bit on the conversation you were having earlier, in that sure, mining work order data, from an asset perspective and what you should do and is one thing, but we all know that the work order data and the building automation data are two separate worlds. So we've always had the challenge of bridging those two worlds successfully, because lots to do with just the way that we deal with assets, right? Work orders chain and deal with assets differently into the building automation. So how would we use asset management from within a building automation frame of reference?
Well, what Ken, thanks for asking. What Ken was saying earlier about moving from the technical hands-on details to the bigger picture strategy that needs to be part of the discussion now that we've got this really powerful AI tool set, is what is constantly a challenge in asset management, where people who are touching the assets see the world in a very tactical approach, an operational approach, and that's fine and wonderful, and that needs to continue. Those are the experts in their areas, and actually probably they're the best. But if the information from them does not get up to the C-suite in a meaningful way, then the strategic decisions cannot be made in a way that's in alignment with the people who are touching the assets. So building automation and all aspects of life actually need to start having this understanding of connecting strategic through operational to tactical measures. And it is the technology that allows this information to flow back and forth. But under what parameters? What's the way to share this information? What's important? That's where asset management comes in, to have a structured approach to governance that focuses on the strategic asset management plan being in alignment with the mission, including all relevant parties, so that you get those technical sets of information involved in your AI, for example. That's important information, and whether you run an AI on that alone, or you say, here's the tactical information, here's our strategic operations, how do we align these, and then let AI go, that's fine. And then the other best practices include having measurements where we all agree it's not just temperature, we need dew point, we need these other factors in there. And when you have leadership supporting, dew point measurements, then the people on the ground realize that leaders are paying attention, and wow, this is new and different.
I think, and that makes a lot of sense. Like, I think just from everyone else on the call, one of the questions I've always got, back to your point about the work order, the CMMS systems look at assets differently to the way that building automation systems people look at assets, right? And just talking from some personal experience here where I work, they even have the whole concept of location of devices, right? There's a pump and it's here, and it's it's located on this plinth and it looks like this and all this stuff. Whereas the building automation space, we don't have a lot of concept of location of stuff per se. Just a wider question for the audience really is, like, this is one of those bridges for me that have always been hard to connect, right? The perspective of a building automation systems view of an asset, of a pump, versus what a work order system would look at from a perspective of a pump. And then the other challenge, of course, is work order systems have a lot more assets that BAS systems don't touch, right? They have chairs and tables and mops and buckets, and there's a whole bunch of other things that BAS systems don't touch, and vice versa, right? Because you'll see BAS systems will touch VAV boxes, and work order systems may or may not go down to that level of granularity unless it's absolutely needed. So the question I've always had from an asset management perspective is, how do you bridge that gap of, we're both talking about the same asset, but we don't describe it the same way?
How does that become less of an issue as the BAS supervisor moves to the cloud and becomes part of the CMMS or the BIM package and all the things together? Because the people who actually ultimately, the old supervisor, as we all know, used to be sat in the basement with someone generally looking at it and a printer running out lots of alarms that nobody dealt with. Whereas if the data is actually put into the hands of people who actually know what to do with it and can tie it to the plant or the building, is that step where now the supervisor is morphing away and becoming part of the facility management and tying it in with all the other packages, therefore become more dynamic for the packages that were previously siloed, but now actually bringing in the data that the facility management people actually need for the assets.
Yeah, I think that's that's what I was talking about, right, Roger? Is I think there's, and in fact, Anto's looking to bring on Kim on. I think he has some inputs on this. Is that okay, Steve?
Yeah, before we bring Kimono on, I want to pick up on Mike, your point about strategic information and tie that to the history of how building automation is deployed. So from a historical perspective, building automation systems there's generally a points list associated with whatever the building automation system is responsible for. So you take a piece of equipment, you generate a points list for it. And that's all well and good. What it doesn't do is it doesn't, for example, state not just for the devices that the building automation itself consists of, like a sensor or actuator that might be connected to it. We don't necessarily name the manufacturer. We don't specify the location of the device.
Right.
We don't specify the date in which that device was installed and running. So we really don't have any way to create a historical record of what's been going on. We don't necessarily, as an example, would certainly be nice, I think, to look at the continuous runtime of any device that we install in a building. How many hours? How many years? How has it been? All of a sudden, you'd have I would think, valuable strategic information that could easily be picked up by an IWMS or some other host system, because it's just native to the building automation system. But there's no discipline in the as I've seen it, in the engineering community, to where they're saying in a points list, you must also specify all the manufacturer information, the date of installation, and so on, all the points I just alluded to. And that wouldn't be hard to do. It would add a little cost, certainly from the engineer's perspective, the application engineers, to gather that information and input it. But if it was really a part of the record of every system and every device we install in the building, I would think it would be enormously valuable to this story we're trying to tell.
Exactly. And that's why I'm encouraging a look at asset management governance as the directive to make that happen. We need to inform the owners that it is possible to do what Steve just said, and it is beneficial. And yes, there's more work and there's more cost, but we can also point out that the return on investment will be stupendous for them.
So, brought you on, and I saw your comment in the chat. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. So if we think of building automation systems as having point data, it's related to some asset, right? It's related to that air handling unit or whatever it is, right? And you don't have to carry the rest of the attributes along. It's basically if you have an ID that says here are the points and relating to building automation system, that same ID of the asset can be carried in the CAD or the BIM of that location. And I think location is a user interface that drives the business case of why does that asset even exist and why do we even care about the points coming from it. It's very similar, I think, to an Uber. There is a lot of point data coming from an Uber about the quality of the driver, the cost of the ride, all that stuff. But where the connection happens to the customer is a location-based thing. If you don't have that location, all of that point data is meaningless. Therefore, if you combine location with very valuable data about building automation systems and other attributes relating to that, then you get a lot of different value out of it beyond just, well, here's a lot of data coming out of this thing. Having that thing at some minimal location creates patterns and also creates opportunities to link to other things within that building, for example, or that city or wherever it might be. That's just my view of it. And I think it's not as complex as it might seem, because every system, obviously, as we know, does not have to carry every single attribute. It just has to have some kind of common touch point, minimal touch point, actually. You don't want a lot.
Yeah, that's interesting. In fact, I heard, in fact, only the last couple of weeks internally, the location piece is as important, because I might change that pump out, right? So I might have collected a bunch of data on a particular pump, but next week I need to change that pump out. It's still a similar pump doing the similar function in the similar location. A whole different age, it's got a whole different model, and it's got a whole different history, and so knowing, to your point, where that pump is, seems to be the connector.
Yeah. Another thing that we found over and over again with location is you find duplicate entries. So you have a list of things where here's a bunch of pumps. As soon as you put a location on a map and you see 3 points around the same location, say, is this the same pump or is this a different pump?
Right.
We've even found it with whole buildings for the US Coast Guard and Homeland Security. Here's a list of buildings in System A, list of buildings in System C. This is across the board. Every single owner has this problem. Why is this building in there twice at that same location? Oh, it's in there twice, or oh, it's in the wrong location. If you don't have that location data, there's no visual clue that there's a problem, which goes back to Uber. I'm waiting on this corner for the ride. Why is my ride not here? I put the wrong address in, therefore it's not here. Otherwise, you're waiting for a ride and doesn't arrive and you don't create the connection. So that location, even if it's a very simple location, dot on a map, or the shape of the room, or the location of the building, or the pump on the roof, I mean, the pump in the mechanical room and the air handling unit on the roof, that kind of thing, immediately you start seeing patterns with minimal location information. And the more you have, you don't always need more, actually. It's better not to overdo it, because that's another part of this. A lot in the BIM and digital twin world, they overdo the location and geometry thing, because it looks, we call it Hollywood BIM. It looks very pretty in pictures, but it's not doing very much.
Hollywood BIM. I love that. Better steal that one. Hollywood BIM. In fact, I think there's the reverse model as well, right? In the BAS world, in our world, one of the challenges we always have is that, you know, we get a too hot call from a room, and our challenge is how do we relate to that location of that room, to the sensor that's in that room, to the air hand, to the VAV box, to the air handling unit that's associated with that too. And that's a big challenge in our space, right? In that connecting locational information into the points lists of stuff that we get from those systems.
Absolutely.
I wasn't involved, obviously, because I was traveling the past month or so, but have you covered movable assets as well within buildings? You know, where you might have, for instance, hospitals where they've got at the locations pretty important if they're trying to find some things, and there may be not that many of them around.
We interestingly enough, Roger, one of the areas that we find it in our space is laboratories. That's when we start to do work order systems in laboratories where equipment is, because a lot of their stuff is movable in that space, but still within an environment that has to be managed as well.
One of the most interesting kind of assets I ever got involved with was in containers that you get on ships, and where they are in ports, and what's in them, what the temperatures are, what, you know. So it's a mini system, but you got containers all over the world, and where they are at sea and where they are at port, because when you've seen thousands of them stacked up, just trying to find them. But it's not a dissimilar concept.
Mike, sorry.
I was just gonna say, I think we're struggling with all of this, and I think we're just on the edge of the horizon of what's ahead of us. And yeah, the containers is a classic example of the system of systems that is so important. And I think we're just kind of understanding that now, and we need to talk about it more, and we need to share other, more experiences. I find that the examples, when somebody gives an example of how they're using all of this stuff, that really helps. So we're trying to depict that on the magazine.
One thing that concerns me is time constants. So I'm a huge proponent of getting this kind of metadata, location data, other things into these systems. But unfortunately, back in the real world, in the built environment, that data is not in there on the existing building stock.
Right.
I'm wondering how we're going to liberate this value with that being the case, and what is the cost, and what will it take for us to retrofit that data back in these facilities, discover that information where it doesn't exist today. There are companies out there that are designing robots to run around and scan all this information and use AI and big data. I mean, there are lots of solutions, but how do we get around that now? And as an industry, how do we make up for the metadata that we don't have in the systems today?
Yeah,
a perfect person to address that question, because he's dealing with that on a regular basis.
You're calling on me? Yeah. So what we do is we try and find the minimal information that's available. This goes back to the Hollywood BIM. You don't need a Hollywood BIM of a building to put an asset pump in the room. You just need a very basic plan and a dot on the map in the plan. And then the other thing is we try and make it based on the transactions that are currently happening. So if there is a work order system, for example, in place, and somebody's reporting from a building, the building exists, possibly, or the room exists, or there's something wrong with that air conditioning system in the building. And we come from two different directions. So some buildings almost have nothing in place. You can start with a minimum. Where is it on the map is actually our first question. This is the Coast Guard example again. Locate our buildings. Okay, there's 2 dots on the map. Okay, how many units are in that building? It's a inventory of, lease inventory or whatever. And then in the opposite direction, if there's a new building coming in and being constructed, and you have a BIM coming in, then you can be very prescriptive of what you need to bring into your system, which should also be very strategic. You don't want the Hollywood BIM, the whole detailed model that you have to maintain, but you need certain things in it that tie into the CMS, IWMS, and other systems. And if you're strategic like that, you can definitely hit the whole inventory. And we've done this over and over with very large owners by not starting and saying, well, we have to have a method in place to capture everything in very detail. And then you can start using. You say, what do you have already in place? Even if it's an Excel list and a dot on a map, you can start working with that and then build it up over time. It doesn't become a burden.
And Jim, to be specific on building up the metadata is, again, this starts with the owner's mission. Once they articulate that they want more value out of their building automation systems, then they determine what those measurements are. And you work with them and say, well, we can get you that, but these sensors can't, you work with them. And then you start capturing because you have that data. But is it accessible?
We have been doing that, Mike, for many years and doing these base cases to build the models that we use for analysis in the building. So yes, we have done that. But my concern is that in order to create some of these enterprise value propositions, we need data that go beyond the scope of the silos that the people we deal with are in. So when we start getting into asset management value creation, we've gone about as far as we can go with control systems and physical data in terms of getting all of the data that the people in our silo have access to. But my continual example is that we've been doing HVAC analytics for 25 years. We have, a lot of experience in that area, and it is darn impossible to get people in environmental health and safety silos to work with us to liberate most of the information we already have. We don't have the political pull to go down into those other silos and get that information that we know we need to create that value. And you'd be amazed at, when you confront the customer and say, hey, look at all these other things we can do. And they basically shrug and look at their shoes, and that's where the conversation ends a lot of the time. So in terms of what Kimon is saying, I'm totally in agreement. I'm trying to figure out, once again, how we can start getting more asset management and other data that are in these other silos. It's almost more of a political problem than it is a technical one.
Exactly. That's what I've come to learn 11 years with the Asset Leadership Network. It's not the tools. It's not the processes. Those are all proven to work. It's the human behavior issues. And that's why, as the son of a retired colonel, I understood the importance of the ISO 55000 focus on mission. Because when you're focused on the mission, then everything melts away. And so I just continue to say that the answer to your question is to understand asset management better, bring an asset management story to the C-suite, and use HVAC and building automations as a pilot for how they can break down silos, share information across those silos, improve their organization, and then they'll probably want to do it with their fleet also.
you know where I'm going to go, which is give the owner a shiny new thing to point at to force his people, her people, to change their human behavior. Done this for years. And so it's not necessarily about the tech, but use the tech, use the shiny new object as the trick for the owner. And some of you have heard me tell this story before, but it was Governor Martin O'Malley of Maryland that was the one who said, show me the shiny new thing that I can point at to get my people to change their behavior. And he used city stat and then state stat, and we enhanced it with real-time data from building automation systems. And it got everybody to change their behavior. So while we say it's not about the tech, it's about the human behavior. If you use the tech to get the behavior to change, that's not a bad trick. And that's one of the things we've got now. And we'll be talking more about it as we lead up to AHR. We're going to have some really good examples of some of the new technology tricks that are possible that we're going to be demonstrating using connections to Onuma systems and to other building automation systems. I don't see Tracy on here, but we're talking about the different things that we're going to be able to demonstrate that are possible now that weren't possible 5 years ago. And we're going to hold that up as the shiny new thing. And we're going to say, you can now do some of these things that weren't possible. So Mr. Owner, Mrs. Owner, you can now tell your people to do this different. And use tech to make change. We've heard Uber mentioned. We've heard all kinds of other tech. The iPhone was mentioned earlier.
It's an interesting perspective too, Rick, in that one of our, again, to the same points and to what Mike's talking about, one of our internal mandates is the same, is that getting people to change, do something different is the challenge, right? That's always been the challenge. And so one of our mandates now is the step before throwing the new tech at it, right? We go do what's your process today? Lay out your process. It is mind-boggling how many folks I deal with, clients, end users, whoever, that they just do things for the sake of doing things until you actually ask them, write it down, put it on a piece of paper, show me the flow, show me what the challenges that you're, and sometimes we understand it's a little embarrassing because they've been doing the same thing for the same way for the last 10 years, and that's the process, right? And they know there's a lot of skeletons buried in that. So getting them to find their process in the first place, is a hurdle in of itself, right? So whether you use the shiny object to go here, here's how we can do that, but you've got to understand their process, right? What challenges are they really trying to solve?
That can be part of the asset management discussion, and then you break it down into systems automation and to just get them rolling.
Right.
Excellent. I had told Kimon for ages to just slow down and let people catch up to him. And then early in 2023, or was it even just earlier this year, he showed me what he was doing with our AI. And I said, run, Forrest, run, because everybody knows that AI is changing the game. And if they don't stay up on AI, then they are going to lose out. So we now have this shiny object, and it's better because we are showing how to use that shiny object in the context of real world building systems and showing benefits. So now we want to just keep on reminding people that the way the world is new tools are coming out every year, and you've got to stay on top of things. And what asset management does is give a structure to the fundamental change that many organizations are going to have to do in order to benefit from the use of these tools. You're doing things faster now. You're no longer necessarily going to use a time-based contract. Matter of fact, you might want to make a performance-based contract that says if you do it faster, you get more money. So
Yeah, I do. I'm actually with you, Mike. I do believe in what you're doing is changing the language that building owners are using, right? We never really came from it from an asset-centric view of the world. It was, even though we dealt with assets, and even though that's what we've been doing for the last several decades, we never used those language as it being that's the focus, right? That the word asset was just that's how I described something, as opposed to changing the perspective of no, it's really about asset management at the end of the day.
I'll add
Okay,
this to your comment. I think what you just said is the conversation needs to be led and changed exactly to what you just said. We as an industry are damn good at talking about technology.
Yes.
But you talk about moving that conversation in the C-suite. They don't care about the technology. They don't care if it's blue, red, yellow, or green at the end of the day. What they care about is, y'all have heard me say this, I get on my soapbox about the outcome. What does it mean? And in this case is what is asset management initiatives going to do for the market value of my property? What is it going to do for replacement value as examples? What is it going to do for things such as extending the asset lifespan of the things that run my building? What is it going to do to improve and extend tenants that I have to worry about every 5 years renewing or whatever? What's it going to do for risk mitigation for me? Because I've got so much risk today, financially, cybersecurity, losing tenants or whatever. And the conversation's got to change to real estate and asset management and what it means to the real estate. That's how I look at it.
The other observation I'm making, trying to move this magazine ahead, is this next generation communicate completely different than we do. And they're very driven by short YouTubes and quick information, important information condensed. And definitely we've had to refocus on less technical and more global events and more reasons why. And they're asking those questions right up front. It's like, what are you guys talking about? And like we spend so much time going over all of these technical details, and they're so important to us, but the rest of the world doesn't really give a crap about them. So get on with it. Tell me how your system's going to create value. And we're trying to put this platform together so everybody here and everybody in the industry can come on and use their own words. But it's not just their words, it's their videos, the latest shiny object in presentation is necessary for us. So we're sort of seeing that evolution, and we don't know what that is, but if we can try and create a vehicle to provide that, I think it'll have some use.
Well, we only got 2 minutes, but we'd love to help through the BIM storm, the storm that we're creating for AHR. We'd love to just have a pipeline to you to explain what we're doing and help other people understand this.
Yeah, I think that's actually a key point, Mike, is that one, even again within my group, the actual understanding of assets, asset management, even though, what we do is asset management. That's the core of the business of what we do. We don't have the terminologies and the words and the alignment on that, which is just mind blowing to my perspective. We do have the last minute. Anto, are you still with us? Or you listen?
I'm here. Been listening. Been fascinating discussion. Maybe I should stay away more often.
No, man, I don't want to do this every time. So no, the answer is no.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks, Kimon, as well.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you all for this month of focus, and I feel like things have moved along, and I'll be in touch with you. Anybody can reach out to me individually, and Ken, I'll definitely be in touch with you, and we'll keep this ball rolling.
Excellent. All right, all. We'll call it there. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Thanks.
guys.
Bye.
Bye now.